Welcome back, world. It's the Black Psychologist Podcast. We're back like we never left. Appreciate everybody here joining us, whether you're on YouTube, whether you're on iHeartRadio, whether it's Spotify, Pandora, Google Podcasts, wherever you're tuning in. We appreciate you guys being here with us, whether it's the first time, last time, which it better not be. Long time listeners and watchers and supporters, we appreciate it. So it's the Black Psychologist Podcast. I am Dr. Kyle Osborne. He is I, and I am him. And you guys all know I'm never here by myself. Never, ever. This guy, he means business. He's intense. So say your prayers and eat your vitamins. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Jason Coleman, what is going on, good brother?
Man, I'm good. I'm hungry looking at that T-shirt, man. Representing Philly well. Landmark. It was one of the first places when I actually moved to Philly. It's one of the first places I went because I'm a foodie on the low, man. So whenever I go to a different city in advance, I look at where the food spots is, and that was one of them. They was talking about the coffee and those donuts with the strawberry sugar on the outside. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh man, don't listen. You gotta embrace your inner foodie, man. Listen, if Philly, like, and I told you when we first met, like, if Philly has anything else to offer, it's food. Like, we're a melting pot. We got great grub. Like, that's what we do here. And listen, I like to eat. There are some people that have a weight problem. I can't wait to eat. That's how I roll. Okay, see what I'm saying? Like that. That's what I do. So like some people, live to eat. I live to eat. Listen, this is what I do. All right. So
who was that? That was Bernie Mac.
That was Bernie Mac. Yeah, that was little Bernie. Yeah.
Rest in peace, the legendary Bernie Mac.
Legendary Beat Mac. Absolutely. What's going on, man? How's your week been?
Oh man, it's been busy. Hot. But I'm chilling, man. I can't complain. Just a lot of work, man. But good Memorial Day weekend, so I ain't complaining about that either. What about you? What you been up to?
Same, man. It was a long weekend. I'll take that any day of the week. It was hot today. I tried to get a little self-care, caught up on some reading, try to get a little smidge of some self-care activities in there. So
what are you reading, man? I'm gonna put you on the spot.
What am I reading? Yo, you listen. I'm reading. What is her name? It was on. And don't laugh at me. All right, because I stand proud of it. I was on Oprah's book list, right?
Oh man.
So listen. What's the actress's name? Oh man, I'm blanking on her name. She's on not Scandal, on How to Get Away with Murder. She's an amazing actress. Man.
Oh, she's in all those movies too.
Yeah, I'm blanking.
That was the one that played. She played Biggie's mother, right?
Yeah, I'm blanking on her name, but either way,
she played in the Help, right?
Yes, yeah. So amazing book. Started reading. You want to talk about resilience? Like, she talks about overcoming. She was like one of like 7 kids, man. Like, in like the impoverished, and what she was able to overcome. I mean, amazing, bro. Yeah, that it's a good read. I'm really upset that I'm blanking on her name. Like, another actress continues. Like, I want to say Alfre Woodard, but that's not it.
What's it called?
You know what, man? See, I'm gonna have me just pull this up really quick. A different name is popping up in my head, but yeah, she's an amazing actress, of course. What? So you see what happened? Thank you for putting me on the spot. Now I'm out here looking all fake and fugazi.
Oh man, I didn't mean to do you like that. I didn't mean to do you like that.
But no, it's a
All right, well, listen. Since somebody needs to recommend a book, I'm gonna recommend a book for anybody who wants to learn a little bit about trauma. There's a book called "The Body Keeps the Score." By Bessel van der Kolk. Don't kill me if I mess up his name, but The Body Keeps the Score. You can get a copy of that on Amazon. It's a terrific book about trauma and how trauma, kind of manifests itself in the body in different ways, to use like bottom up and top down methods, to manage, and understand trauma. And it gives you a good way, another way to understand it. So
Okay.
that's a good book recommendation you can get from me. Now back to Dr. Kyle.
Viola Davis, that's her name. That's who it is.
Oh,
I don't know
yeah.
why
Okay.
Alfred would have kept coming into my brain. I don't know why. Probably because I was watching something. Because I was watching a movie earlier or over the weekend. But yeah, Viola Davis, her book is amazing. Absolutely check it out. Resilient, amazing actress. Yeah. So if you get an opportunity to read that book and check it out, Oprah's got some good joints on there. Every now and then I gotta check out. Also being
That's what's up.
it's still mental health month, awareness month, along with lupus awareness month. So we absolutely want to continue to encourage folks to check up on your loved ones. We're going to be talking a lot about that through today's episode, as well as
Definitely.
that shirt you got on though. What's before I forget, go ahead. What you got on there, good brother? What you rocking?
Oh, well, listen, man, obviously, we always, represent prioritizing your mental health. So anybody that wants to, support in that way, shop mental health clothing, .com, you can get a shirt, pillow, whatever you need, taking care of you there. But on a bigger note, more importantly, we just want to encourage people to embrace self-care, prioritize your mental health in whatever way that you want to do it. And yeah, that's it, man. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Prioritizing our mental health is none other than more important, especially given the past few weeks that the whole United States has been experiencing. Um,
Right.
we've unfortunately there's been a rash of mass shootings that have been taking place at schools, at supermarkets, at other different public areas. Jay, you just mentioned one you just brought to my attention about there was one that took place at a graduation today. So um, it's to say that these are tough and horrific and any other different adjective you want to use, I think will be an understatement. I mean, these are tragedies,
Right.
and unfortunately, they've been happening more and more frequently this year. We're already at a very high number for these mass shootings and tragedies that have been taking place, and of course, the two topics that tend to come up usually immediately following these tragic events is gun reform and mental health, right? Those are always the same two topics that politicians and other different notable people will be bringing to and be debating. And of course, we could debate those two things till we're blue in the face. Something that is also important when you want to talk about, okay, what preventative measures can be put in place, is thinking about, okay, when these events have transpired, how do we move forward, right? As an individual, as a community, as families, as a collective, how do we move forward? How do we learn to cope with these things? And it's tough. For the last few weeks, we've been left with little space to even process one tragedy before absorbing another. You went from Buffalo to the Laguna Woods to now, or more recently, Texas, to now the one you informed me about. And whether you're feeling terrified, whether you're feeling outraged, whether you're feeling despondent or numb, usually you have some type of reaction, right? You can either feel it in your body, you may feel it emotionally, and especially with each headline, with each quote, with each photo, with each video footage that we are exposed to for all the media coverage, it produces some form of a physical sensation or even an emotional sensation. And so it's an impact. People are impacted by this in more ways than not. And so I saw I saw some research, or I saw some stats, and it says anxiety over school shootings have been on the rise. So they said increasing from 15%. Parents and others have been fearful about school safety in 2008 to 24% more recently in 2017. Now it's up to 34% in 2019. And I imagine if you were to poll people, and even particular like parents, today, I imagine that number would be even higher, kind of given the recent events. And
Right.
so, it's difficult for the reason that it's happening in so many different areas. It's not just restricted to schools. It's happening in supermarkets. It's happening at graduations, as you mentioned to me. It's happening in all these other different areas. And there's a reaction. All right, there is a reaction that we are experiencing, and a lot of that is secondary or collective trauma that people are experiencing. So, it's something that I wanted us, or that we talked about, that we felt that was appropriate in talking about that, not just because it's Mental Health Awareness Month, but just because these events keep taking place. Um, and something, if we're able to give some type of information where people can utilize to help and kind of help get through this process, because anxiety is high overall. If you're a parent, your anxiety is high. I mean, if you're just a regular civilian or pedestrian, your anxiety is high, for the reason that you don't know when these things are going to take place. Jay, and I know that, unfortunately, whatever people want to place the calls into, these situations, it's like they're socially contagious, right? Well, and I know through social and observing learning theory that a lot of these are attributed to, which is just one reason, is that individuals see things take place, they see one mass shootings, it contributes to the ideas of other people taking these things, and along with other different things that contribute to this type of behavior. But that puts people on edge, right? That puts people on edge, and you don't know where the next event is going to take place. And I think also what contributed to, and I didn't really put this together until we were preparing for this portion, was that a lot of the victims have been Black, they've been Latino, and they've been Asian, right? They've been in those communities, and so that, even from afar, it can feel, as a lot of people can feel, like this is happening on home turf, right? That's a part of the whole collective and secondary trauma. And so, even as a parent, speaking as one, this is like your worst nightmare. This is a situation where you send your kid to school to get educated, to make friends, to develop, and you're thinking that this is supposed to be a safe haven, yet this happens. So I can understand and totally, see why the anxiety has been increasing over the um over the past few years, given all these events and the frequency that they've been taking place. So, um, you know, some things that come to, or the term that continues to come to the forefront for me is helplessness. Right, you're wherever you're at, whether you're at a supermarket or whether you're sending your kid to school, you feel helpless. And now it's to the point where, well, okay, what do we do when you're experiencing this, vicariously, or you're experiencing it through secondary trauma? What do we do? Right. So hopefully, we're able to give some of our listeners, give some of our viewers some information that'll kind of help them get through this. But, that's just kind of what I was experiencing, things that came to the forefront for me. How was it for you? Especially as these were taking place, in the past couple of
Um,
years.
well, first, today, obviously there was another shooting at a high school graduation, in Xavier University. One person dead, two injured. So obviously that's another event that's going to affect not only the person that was injured, but a lot of other people and families that were there, right, on a day that they was probably looking forward to for a long time. That's probably um, going to be a traumatic memory for a very long time, if not forever, right? So just condolences to the person that lost their life. Um, yeah, I mean, we talked about obviously the largest, I guess, child involved school shooting we've seen in history, with 18 people killed in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Buffalo, that massacre in the in the supermarket. 2022, there's been 213 mass shootings already. So for you to say that, anxiety is up from parents when they're dropping their kid off and it's going from 15 to 34, yeah, if they did a poll today, it would probably be a hell of a lot higher than that, right? Mm-hmm. So we can understand why kids and parents would have anxiety. We got 213 mass shootings. Kids have cell phones, right? So they're aware of these school shootings. You have children that are 6, 5, 7 years old coming home after doing active shooter drills in school, right? So of course, and then on top of this, it just so happens that, a large percentage of like these shootings, right? We have the shooting in Buffalo in a predominantly Black neighborhood, right? The shooting in Texas in a predominantly Hispanic neighborhood, right? So again, we're not talking about, or Latinx neighborhood, right? We're not talking about, I'm not necessarily even talking about the identity or the cultural identity of the shooters. I'm just talking about the people in the neighborhoods that they're terrorizing, right? So in addition to all of the other things that feel like they might be being targeted for, right? Fighting for food, security or housing or financial stability, right? Or thinking that the police may be targeting their families, rightfully so in a lot of circumstances. Now they have to worry about going to church or shopping, going to buy bologna or chicken sandwich at a grocery store, or dropping your kid off to school, right? So that's why, I think the cultural component is important, right? Because you have people of color all over this country that could legitimately be terrorized, could be legitimately be scared and afraid to drop their children off to school, go sit in church, and go shop for deli lunch meat at the grocery store, right? Just because they're Black, right? Or they're a person of color. So the anxiety is real, right? So that's one thing that's justified. The other thing is, I think that what we got to focus on is obviously you can't predict these things in advance. There's no, magic machine where you're going to be able to wave it over students' heads and know which one is going to be the school shooter. So you got to focus on resources, right? Supporting the students after the fact and not resisting the urge to kind of move on and make everything look like it's okay. And honestly, I think the schools, and I hope this doesn't sound controversial, but I think the schools would do a lot better job supporting these kids in advance if they had better relationships with the students, right? Because after these school shootings, the kids know that these kids have problems, right? You'll see them interviewing some of the kids and they'll be saying, yeah, we used to call him a school shooter. Why? Because they were outcast, they didn't have friends, they dressed strange, they made strange comments, they didn't socially, they were outcast. And I'm not saying that means everybody who fits that profile is going to be a school shooter. But what I'm saying is their peers knew, that these kids were struggling. In case after case after case, when they're interviewing the kids knew. They knew that, you know what I mean? They may not know that the kid is a school shooter, but it's like you got to create some type of system where if the children feel threatened or if they feel like somebody needs help, they communicate that. You know what I mean? So, again, it's kind of it's a strange, not a strange situation, but it's just shocking. But I'm gonna tell you right now, I think my fear is that we're gonna habituate to this. As crazy as it sounds, right? Because, and unfortunately, I don't mean to make it this type of show, but this is where the politics comes in, right? Because certain people have habituated to 18 kids being killed because of politics. I can never habituate to 18 kids being killed, right? But if you can pivot to but don't take away this, right? Or but my guns, then again, my fear is that we're going to habituate to this and move on to something else, right? And then you start offering people prayers and thoughts, and the laws don't change. But that's my piece.
No, I think it already has to a certain extent, for the reason that how many did you say have taken place so far this year? 200 how many?
213.
So I can't think of all 213 of those events that have taken place. Right? You can't.
We don't even hear about
it. Exactly. And I think that's what I mean. That's what I'm alluding to, is that some of the coverage, I remember years ago, I remember where I was, where I heard about the Columbine things, because it was my freshman year in high school. And like, it was just so foreign to when I heard, I'm like, what? This was happening? And then you heard about some of the other different ones that have had it followed like a year or so later, or a few years. Now you're saying, you just said over 200 have taken place, and they're not getting the news coverage. I think the one in Texas most recent, I mean, they all should be getting news coverage. I think this is getting more coverage just because it was younger children. I don't know the details of some of the other ones you mentioned, or they're that included in that over that 200 group. But like the media coverage, it's they mention it, I think, for some of these, and then that's it, right? And so I think that's where it is getting to the point where it's either becoming desensitized, or like you said, it's becoming habituated to this, where it's not getting the coverage that it deserves, because unfortunately they've become more commonplace. And that's scary. That's very, very scary. And like you mentioned, when something like this happens, like this rocks the fabric of people's lives, of what their sense of security is. Like when some people may have, okay, the worldview is that it's safe, right? The world is safe. For me, sending my kid to the school is going safe. Going to the supermarket, like you mentioned, it's safe. But when that happens, especially when it's happened back to back to back, and it's happening so frequently, that rocks your whole framework of what you thought the world is and how safe it is. Is it safe for me to go here? Is it safe for me to go to this place? Is it safe for me to send my kid to school? All these other different thoughts are now flooding to the forefront, and understandably so. And so, like you said, if it's going to be a situation where it takes place, and then the argument between gun reform and mental health and all those different things, because that's what it's going to be across the aisles, that people are going to be pointing at each other. Though this was the cause, this was the cause. I read something this morning that the governor, I don't know, I want to say the governor, but some official in Texas was blaming video games and rap music.
Yeah, I saw that.
Right. So now we're gonna revert back to that one, for the reason, and I imagine that this particular individual doesn't want to go the gun reform route, because we all know the how that'll affect whatever his ideologies and his pockets and such. So now this is where we're gonna get back into. We're gonna get into we're gonna point fingers.
But see, this is the thing, and this is, I'm gonna be very honest, this is where I kind of get. This is where, like, being a politician becomes an adjective sometimes, right? Because what you see these people doing is what we kind of loathe, right? Every time this happens, they want to conflate racism and mental health, right? So everybody who picks up a gun and goes and kills 13 people, the last thing I want to hear out of a governor's mouth, a mayor's mouth, right? Somebody who has never diagnosed anybody, they can't spell DSM-4, they've never seen it, this is because of mental health. How the hell do you know? Right? Because listen, I'm gonna be very honest, it's disrespectful to all of the people that have schizophrenia, that have bipolar disorder, that have anxiety disorder, that have major depressive disorder. When is the last time in mass that they've been killing people at all? Much less with guns, right? So this is why I said, this is where the word politician becomes an adjective. This is why you can't believe anything they say, because what they're saying is absolutely untrue, right? Because How many of these people do we actually find out a week later this person had a diagnosable mental health disorder that was related to what they did? Right? Half of these people, you go and you read, you go and you see, look into their social media, they just have manifestos about how they hate Black people and they hate Jewish people and they hate women and they hate, that's not mental health, that's racism. Mm-hmm. And prejudice, right? Right? And discrimination, that's all of those, that's all elements of those things, right? But when you conflate it with mental health, that's not what we're doing. Right? But if you let the news tell it, you let the governments tell it, but remember, this is why you gotta watch when somebody's shaking your hand because they might have the other one in your pocket, right? That's why they say that, right? Because if you can get people to believe that it's the people with the mental health disorders that are walking around shooting people, right? Then mommy and daddy can wake up the next morning and say, well, that's them and not me, right? Because my neighbor doesn't have mental health problems and nobody I know has mental health problems. And that's the bubble we live in. Those people are in the hospital. It's a guy that escaped from the hospital and shot everybody. No, it's the kid that's sitting next to your kid every day, right? Could he possibly have some diagnosable mental health disorder that we don't know about? Of course. But there's the same probability of that, or possibility of anybody that you walk past on a daily basis. So that's what annoys me, is that the first thing you do is you get the mayor or the governor sitting up there talking about we need more mental health reform. No, we need to address the fact that we have domestic terrorists in this country, right? And we have an epidemic of those people, and we have too many guns.
I agree. Yeah, it's scary because that's the you're the separation aspect of it, and then it also unfortunately reinforces that stigma that people that have mental health issues are violent. Right. So it's just like, oh no, it's just those folks that they have issues, or that boy is disturbed, okay, or he has issues. If he would have gotten the help to such and such, none of this would have happened. No.
I mean, but
that's
and I'm not saying you're saying it, but that's true for anybody who has ever been convicted of any crime ever. Mm-hmm. If we would have got him the help, he or she the help, they wouldn't have did that. That's true whether you stole a muffin or whether you murdered somebody.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, and I hate the mudslinging, right? I hate it because it never fails. It follows immediately after one of these events takes place, and it's pointing the finger because you have certain folks that are trying to protect their interests, and it's just like, all right, well, we blame it on this, then it was preventable. So again, something that we absolutely want, especially as people are, these things are taking place, ways, and if you're a parent, again, if you're any type of civilian, a person just watching the news, or you're in some way affected through this, is what's been helpful is validating your feelings, right? You have every right to feel upset, to feel sad, to feel frightened, to feel anxious. It's okay, right? There's no real rule book on how you should feel in reaction to these events. The first thing is absolutely validating your own feelings and allowing yourself to feel that way, right? Because a lot of people say, oh, I shouldn't feel upset, I shouldn't feel this, I feel that. And now you're doing yourself and, your own psychological and well-being harm, right? It's okay to feel how you feel. So, everybody has different experiences. Some people are going to have different viewpoints, but it's okay. Validate your own feelings first. And then also another thing is practicing self-care. Something even as I've been telling some of my clients and patients, self-care doesn't always look like, well, let's go do something enjoyable. Absolutely. That's a part of it. But another thing is moderating your exposure, right? It's gonna be on 24/7, right?
Right.
Especially since it's been happening so frequently. You absolutely want to moderate your exposure to this. It's okay to stay informed. It's okay. Information is gonna continue to come out. At the same time, sitting there watching CNN for 2-3 straight hours after you've gotten home from work and after you've been checking on your phone and people have been talking about it, absolutely, I don't recommend that. Moderation. It's okay as you want to check out, okay, are there new developments? And then go about talking with your family, hanging out, doing something enjoyable, where that's where that part comes in with those activities. Because you know and I know, Jay, there'll be some people that'll be tuned in 24/7.
Yeah, that's real.
So absolutely not doing that. Talking it out with your family member, or especially with your kids. I mean, young kids, I think that's something that, especially as parents, that's a blind spot. I'm not gonna say for everybody. However, when these things are taking place, it's good to check in with your kid. Whether they're high school, middle school, elementary school, it affects us, right? And they hear things. It's better for them
Right.
to have a conversation with us, the parent, than as opposed to just leaving them to their own devices, or they're getting their own ideas, or they're having their own conversations from their peer group or their friends. It's good to actually see what's going on with them, right? What are their thoughts? What are their perspective on things? Because they may be having difficulty processing it and making sense of themselves. Like I said, I couldn't make sense of it when I was in high school. That something like this would happen at another high school that was completely across, the United States, on a whole different West Coast. And I'm sitting here like I couldn't fathom that. Didn't talk to anybody really about it.
Right.
However, it still was something that was difficult to process, in the sense of like I couldn't fathom that happening in my own school. But it happens. Obviously, like you said, we're already at over 200 right now for 2022.
Crazy.
And so, taking action, doing something constructive. A lot of people are frustrated. A lot of people want to help. So there are different resources that people are able to get involved with, whether it be volunteering, whether it be, some form of action, online. There are other different petitions. There are other different things that people are able to do, that can work towards, whatever your value system correlates to. So I don't ever want people to just think that, I have to sit here and just kind of wait for the next one. No, there are different things and different constructive activities that you're able to do, as far as that can kind of help towards the cause, helping people, volunteering, donating money, whatever the situation may be, relief efforts and things of nature, right? It can go beyond just offering thoughts and prayers, which are good, but there are other different resources that people are able to do, and that it can kind of help, provide some relief to that helplessness feeling. So, just a few things that, like again, prioritizing your mental health, especially during times like this.
Hey man, that's good advice. Man. Listen, I was gonna add one thing, but you covered it. So you know, good free game, man. Can't add
Absolutely.
nothing to that.
All right. And other unfortunate news. Unfortunately, since the month of March, there have been at least 6 NCAA athletes who have died by suicide, leaving families, leaving teammates, leaving friends, grieving and figuring out how to cope. You have Arlana Miller. She was a cheerleader that was in Southern University. You have Lauren Barnett. She went to Liberty. Sarah Scholes, I hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly. Katie Meyer, she was the soccer player that went to Stanford. You have
Right.
Jaden Hill, and you got Robert Martin. So all of them passed away during the months of March, April, and May of this year. And these were all athletes who, if you're looking from the outside looking in, they look like they, had everything going on for them, right? They looks like they were doing well, flourishing on the field and whatever perspective sport that they were playing. But away from the field, they could have been struggling with some mental health issues that no one knew about. Arlana, what stands out with her situation is that she shared a final Instagram post where she talked about death. She talked about her history of suicidal thoughts. She referenced her struggles with over the past year with school, with COVID-19. She had tore her ACL, and this is tough. This is however, we're seeing an uptick in this. So these are
Mhm.
just the 6 notable ones, right? We're not talking about the ones that didn't make the news. And so this is becoming an unfortunate trend. This is like the trend, the ones that you don't want to hear about, but this is a lot. Okay. Jay, what were your thoughts about as you saw some of these articles and you started saying this taking place more frequently recently?
I mean, I don't have too much to say about this, but I will say, just to kind of reiterate, suicidal ideation is an extreme symptom of depression, right? So this should help people develop a little bit more empathy, patience, right? When you're dealing with people who are experiencing depression, right? Because people don't usually go from zero to suicidal, right? Especially if they follow through with it, right? So this should be a moment of psychoeducation for a lot of people. A lot of people don't necessarily connect suicidal ideation and suicide and depression. But increasing empathy, understanding, right? When you're frustrated with people in your life who may be dealing with these things. What I will say is interesting about this is the way it was kind of played out, right? In terms of her posting an Instagram post, right? There's a new generation. People are communicating different, right? I would have never thought back in the day, like if I lost somebody close to me, of like pouring my heart out on Instagram, right? That's just not kind of how I was wired, but it's very regular nowadays. So the reason why I'm bringing that up is, older people, younger people, middle age, whatever, you got to pay attention to people's social media that you care about. And if you see something that's not normal or not regular, then you need to reach out to them the regular way, not leave a comment, reach out to them the regular way, only because this is the way people are using now, especially when they're struggling to kind of express themselves. So that's all I'm gonna say.
The one thing that stood out for me, especially that all of these other players, I'm hoping that these situations also provide insight for family members and parents. A lot of times, when you see when you have these kids and they're on scholarship and they're out there playing their sport, it seems like a great opportunity. Like, oh, they're out there, they're playing the sport that they love, and they're on scholarship. It's great. It's a great opportunity. They're they get to travel. They're living a great life. However, a lot of people don't understand or even take in consideration that being on a sports team, especially on a collegiate level, it comes with a cost. It comes with a heavy stress load. It comes with a heavy burden. Just maintaining a scholarship alone. This is, a lot of people don't know that most scholarships are year by year, right? Even if you get a full road, like you have to continue to operate and play on a certain level, or your scholarship can be rescinded at any point in time, right? And if you're not well off and you lose that scholarship, you're going back home. The school is not going to say, oh, we'll work with you. Like, no, you have to keep up that play along with everything else, right? You got to make sure you're keeping your grades up, right? Because that's another part of keeping up with the scholarship. Not only you play on the field or on the court or whatever the sport may be, but you also have to keep and maintain a certain GPA. And that's pretty difficult to do if you got practice in the morning, practice in the evening, you got to work out, you got games, so you got to make up for stuff. Like, it's so much that happens that I don't think a lot of people take in consideration of a student athlete's life. Like, that's a hell of a lot of stress. So on the outside, it may look like they're doing great or they have like this amazing opportunity, and it is. I'm not saying that it's not. However, it's also a lot of pressure that a lot of them have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. And even Arlana talked about that she tore her ACL. So now you're talking about injury, you're talking about rehab. That's another layer, another component of stress or of worry of like, hey, am I going to lose my spot on the team? Because and I know, Jay, like, it's next person up. So
listen, we live in a world where people kind of they're focused on the outside. So if you look at these kids, some of them go to big universities, they're successful in the field, physically fit, You know, I mean, I wasn't looking at all of them, but you know, they're fairly attractive adults, all of them. So people are not; these aren't going to be the people that most people are going to assume have challenges, right, or might be struggling with things mentally. But again, it's just another example of, you know, check on your strong friends, right? Although that has become a cliche, it's true.
I know one thing before we move on is especially the seniors. I know the folks that I mentioned were on various different you know classes as far as like junior, senior, freshman. However, absolutely paying attention to like some of those seniors for the reason that they may be getting ready to go through, if not already experiencing the grieving process. Because you got to think about, like, you've been playing the sport for the majority of your life, and you know, and I know most people aren't going pro, right? There's like 1 or 2% of college athletes are actually going pro, whether that's you're going to the NBA, NFL, you're going to the Olympics, playing overseas, whatever the situation may be. The rest of that population, the rest of those college athletes, you're getting ready to graduate and get a regular job, right? You're getting ready to go into the workforce. So this may be the last year, the last time that you're playing like in a competitive sport on that particular level.
Right.
And you know, for a lot of people, that is a tough adjustment, right? The same way how you have players that are in the professional leagues and they have difficulty adjusting to retirement, it's very similar. So absolutely, I would encourage a lot of families, a lot of parents that if you know if your kid is coming to the end of their collegiate career, as far as especially if they were a student athlete, continuing to check on them to see how they're adjusting to that because you know 1 second you're going to be playing on that big stage, and then the next second once the season's over, that might be it.
Right.
That's difficult. So hopefully, like you said, when people see these posts on social media, you make that phone call. You make that drive. You call. You do whatever to try to intervene and kind of see and investigate and see what's going on with these folks because these kids are going through a lot, Jay. This is
I
similar
agree.
to a parent's worst nightmare at times where you send your kid up there to go have school and enjoy life to become to develop themselves, and you never know what they're experiencing away from home. So hopefully this brings even more awareness to the forefront.
No doubt.
All right, Jay, are you a Marvel fan? Do you check out the movies, you read the comics? How you rolling, bro?
Yeah, a little bit, a little bit.
A little
I
bit.
watch all the movies though.
Okay, all right. I was getting
I
ready.
don't know about the comics, so much, but I watch all of them.
All right. Well, listen, man. I'm big in Marvel, bro. I'm a big comic person. That's a big, huge part of my self-care. Like
Okay.
from reading the comics when I was younger to the X-Men series. In the 90s, they used to come on Fox Saturday mornings at 11 o'clock a.m. To even the movies now, right? I'm anybody that knows me and especially knows that I will drag any of my family members. We're gonna go see this movie on opening day, like the same way how we did with Doctor Strange, we did with Avengers. Like we're seeing it Thursday night.
Oh no, it's terrible.
Yeah, no, it's going down, bro. Like, listen, like when we saw Avengers, my kid went into school like later on that morning because we didn't get out until like 1 o'clock. All right, so she went in late that day. She had that was okay. All right, so I'm big with Marvel. So in an exciting announcement this past Wednesday or a couple Wednesdays ago, Marvel Comics announced that June's Marvel Voices of Pride series #1 will feature the debut of a brand new transgender superhero named Sheila Sexton, aka Escapade. All right, she's a mutant with power that can switch places with anyone or anything. So the writer, Charlie Jane Anders, mentioned in a statement that she described Escapade as a total goofball, a cool weirdo who has super strong senses of justice and a profound loyalty to her friends. He said her powers are pretty unique and they have a wide range of applications. So in addition to switching physical places with somebody, Escapade can trade situations too, right? So and circumstances. So if she stood next to the president, she could simply become the president for a few hours. All right. So,
Mhm.
in addition to her series, to her individual comic series, there are plans for Escapade to be written or have a story arc into Marvel's The New Mutant series this fall. So she'll be joining up with her first super team. All right, Jay, I'm excited about this. I told you I'm heavy into the Marvel world, um, and not so much just for the show itself, for what it represents. I think a lot of people tend to minimize how important superheroes and how important like comic book heroes, how they are and how important they are to people or kids who's kind of grown up. The reason why I say that is because it's not just okay, like they fight crime, they fight all these other different things. It's really what the superhero, what they represent and what they personify, which is why most people have like a favorite superhero. All right. So Jay, who's your favorite superhero?
Black Panther.
All right. Why?
Growing up, it wasn't Black Panther, but it definitely is now. Growing up,
Okay.
it would have been like Wolverine and Captain America.
All right. Why'd you like Wolverine and Captain America first?
I mean, I like the aesthetic with Wolverine. He looked dangerous to me. And then Captain America just, I don't know, it was either going to be like a Captain America, Superman-ish kind of, back in the day, those type characters. So
Right. All right.
that's
Now,
just who I chose.
why Black Panther now? More recently.
Black Panther, I identifies with me, and then plus, my Howard University brother played him in the movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what you think?
Exactly. Right. And so that's what I think a lot of people tend to minimize of how important superheroes are. Usually people or kids growing up, and even now as adults, you have a favorite superhero based off of how that superhero personifies what you value and you're able to identify with them.
Okay.
You mentioned Chadwick and Black Panther for the reason that I remember when that movie first came out. I saw a segment. I don't know if it was Jimmy Fallon or if it was one of the late night folks. So at the opening weekend, like they actually had Chadwick. He was like standing behind a curtain, right? And they were having like some of the families or some of the movie patrons come up and take a picture next to him. And so like they would take a picture next to like the cutout or to the advertisement, and then like Chadwick would come out the curtain
Right, I
and he
saw
would
that.
surprise them, right? And so do you remember like how what the reaction was to like the
Right.
parents and like the some of the kids, like for them to actually have like they were so grateful, they were so in awe and happy that there was finally a superhero that looked like them, right? That represented, that personified all of the same important values and things that they did. Um, and I feel like this is what can happen with Escapade, like similar to how women look up to Wonder Woman, right? They look up to Captain Marvel, they look up to Storm from the X-Men, right? You see somebody strong, see someone that's willing to not the whole thing of just fighting crime, but they're willing to stand up for what they believe in, right? They're willing to fight for things. So I'm hoping that this character does the same. Like I'm hoping that this character will be able to inspire trans and non-binary individuals everywhere so that they're able to fight whatever form of injustice, whatever type of issues that are important to them. And I feel like it's important, especially at this time, because like we talked about a couple episodes, there's a lot of states that are passing legislation, the don't say gay bill, the bathroom bill, all these other different
Right.
things where that population is falling and coming under attack. So this is dope. I like this, man.
I mean, listen, what I will add, I don't want to kind of reiterate, I was going to make some of the same points you made. But what I will add to this is that um, I think this may interest, it has the potential to interest like a whole nother, group of children, you know what I mean, in comics, right?
Mhm.
Um, and then most importantly, the representation piece that we talk about all the time, right? We talk about the representation in a lot of different ways, whether it be the job market, whether it be career paths. But when we talk about the arts, entertainment, and movies, it's important for all of us, and that doesn't change, for the LGBTQA community, right? So, again, I think this can go a long way in terms of providing that representation. I am confident that, it's going to be like well supported, in terms of financially. But I do think it's that you're going to have people that are protesting, people that are upset, right? Because Marvel is a very kind of, I don't want to say old, but it's an institution that's been around for a long time. And anytime you have those type of institutions, they have certain structures and people are resistant to that type of change. But I may be mistaken, but I don't think this is something that really should surprise people, because I think Marvel has taken these type of, if you want to call them progressive positions in the past with different things. So, I think it's interesting, and we'll see, how it is moving forward. But the real question is, are you going to go see the Escapade movie?
If it comes out, of course. Listen, man, I'm
Right.
on it. Like it's on Disney Plus. I'm watching Moon Knight. I'm watching all this stuff, man. I'm on it.
All right, that's what's up, man.
I want to say,
it's interesting. I thought the powers were interesting too, switching bodies in places with anyone.
I want to say, like, and you briefly mentioned it, that Marvel has been gradually incorporating like characters that are, that have different sexual orientations or other different things. So they've been, they've been absolutely, here and there, kind of sprinkling that in. So I'm with it, man. Listen, as long as the character is dope, as far as like the fighting scenes and stuff, like I'm in there, bro.
Right, and I think across the board, like you see different things. Like like we collect toys for different, at different times of the year. Mm-hmm. And I was looking at a Barbie, and it's like they sell Barbies. Some of the Barbies, they don't have any hair on them anymore, right?
Yeah.
And you'll see them in all different shades, and you see the Barbies, and some of them are, are in a wheelchair, and different. They have different disabilities. So, certain things, you may kind of do a double take because you're not used to seeing, certain things presented that way. But we got to understand, like, representation is not just for one group of people, and it's not just for you. You know what I mean? It's for everybody. So,
that's true. Yeah, so bravo to Marvel. Way to go. All right. Staying with the entertainment lane. All right. So Netflix has a new show that's out. All right. It's called, they've unveiled the first look at this. They've, if you haven't seen the trailers, it's centered around a new group of individuals living with autism. All right. So it's called Love on the Spectrum in the United States. So it will follow a group of people in America who live with developmental disorders as they navigate the world of dating and relationships. All right, so it's going to feature a diverse group of individuals who are all looking for lasting and loving relationships. So throughout the seasons, viewers will be able to see relationship hopefuls scanning online profiles, doing research ahead of dates, and they'll also get to watch the singles go on dates and attempt to find their soulmates. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be them taking their first steps into the world of dating. And as well as some of the help that they get from their families and their friends. There will also be like relationship experts that'll be on there to help provide the love seekers with like practical skills to help them navigate what can be a confusing experience for anyone, and kind of giving them the additional confidence to begin their journey on the road of finding love. All right, Jay, you are a Casanova, so what are your thoughts about this, man?
No, I'm not. But listen, listen. I had a general question and then I'll answer it. But are you interested in general, like in any of these shows, like 90 Day Fiance, Married at First Sight?
Yeah. Listen, 90 Day Fiance is a train wreck. I can't not look at that sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's because the dynamic of like, yo, how do you find each other? Like some of these pairings are off the wall. I try not to judge, but it's like, what is happening here? So it's impossible for me to look away from 90 Day Fiance, bro.
Yo, Love is Blind is the one
Yeah.
for me. Love is Blind, where they talk through the wall and marry each other through the wall before they see each other. It's real.
There was another one on Netflix. I forget the name of it, where they have couples, right? The couples that come in, and I think they're on the verge of getting married, but it's like, yeah.
I'm watching that now.
Yo,
that's the ultimatum.
Oh, bro, I want no smoke with that one, bro. Like that thing is intense. Yo, there's no way I would be able to go on a show like that.
But you see people, listen, yo, you see people break down right before like their girl is about to go on a date with somebody else. It's like, nah, I'm good, I'll get married.
Yeah, the one boy was like, nah, we cool, we good, do whatever you want. Now we out.
Nah, I'm good, I'll get married.
Yeah, we get married.
But in terms of this, and that's, I just wanted to ask you because, again, I was a little like, when I saw the article at first and I saw the title, I was a little skeptical, right, of what it could be about. I thought it was like some type of manipulative kind of thing. But this is a franchise, right? Like they did it in Australia. There's plenty of trailers online, and that's why I brought up the other shows, because that's kind of why I thought it, it's not manipulation at this, because it's in line with those other shows. It's kind of the same type of thing, right? And then as I kind of started looking at it a little bit, I think it could have a positive effect. Of course, it's entertainment, it's television, so it seems, there's some funny lines and all of that stuff. But just social, a lot of these people have a lot of insight in terms of their own symptoms, in terms of what it's like to have autism, and they do a good job of communicating, right? So you see a lot of people, some of the characters on there talking about explaining how it impacts their social interactions. Right, so the psychoeducation piece in terms of that, and then it also kind of explores the impact of the family, right, and on the person, because you have some of the caregivers or the siblings, I don't know who it was, talking about people writing their family member off because they have autism, right? So you kind of get a look at, and we talked about this here, the impact of like a diagnosis on dating, right? How it affects people. So I just thought that piece was kind of interesting. But what did you think?
I like this aspect, or the angle that they're doing the show for, because this is the first time I've heard of it. Like I didn't see, I've never seen the Australia version of it, for the reason that typically when you think about individuals that have autism or any other type of developmental disorder, you don't think about them in that particular aspect of their life, right? You just kind of see them, all right, getting them services so they can work, getting them services or helping them, support them while they're in school. And people forget that they're individuals, right? They're people, they have lives, and even though they may experience different social deficits or some communication issues, they still have life and want to experience the same joys and the same different areas and quality of life that people that don't have developmental disorders in. So I like that they're highlighting these ancillary things as far as like dating for them and what does that look like,
right?
Because and I know involved with dating are social cues, nonverbal cues, all these other different things. Like dating is difficult for your person that doesn't experience any type of developmental issues or any other type of thing. Like, so now you want to toss in, or you take into consideration someone that's been, this has been a constant thing that someone's been working on as far as like with autism. And so I like that aspect of them highlighting this. I'm hoping that it absolutely doesn't go like the 90 Day Fiance route. I hope that they remain, that they keep up with its integrity, and they stay with just following how these folks are just looking for the same thing that any individual is looking for in the dating world, as far as respect, understanding, and, companionship. And so I can only imagine I think that's something that we take for granted, for the reason that we've been in and out of relationships since middle school, right? High school. Like you get your training wheels going through life just talking, dating, all these other different things, and how I imagine maybe it's been difficult for them to be able to do that, and how they're getting that support from family and friends and such. So, I like this. I like that, that they're, shedding a light on this, and, showing that sometimes this is something that we take for granted, and kind of seeing what it looks like for individuals that have these different type of issues.
Yeah, it's interesting, man. I'll be tuning in. I'll give it a go. I always, I watch 2 episodes and then I decide whether I'm gonna dump it off my queue or not. But this is a difficult dance to kind of have, because television is about entertainment, right? If you go too far on the entertainment, you could border on like manipulation and exploitation. Yeah. Only because even if you look at the clips, it's obvious that everybody on the show has different levels of functioning, right? So hopefully you have somebody, in terms of between the producers and the people's families who are featured, everybody is at a healthy medium in terms of the balance and the entertainment and the psychoeducational piece. I'm gonna leave it there.
What I liked also is that it was a wide range of not just male and female, but ages also, and cultures, right, and ethnicities. And so I think that's also something that you don't tend to see a lot of in regards to some of these other different developmental disorders. You only sometimes, depending on your viewpoint, you may only see a particular gender, right? You only may see a particular ethnicity, and so I'm happy that they're showing that range. I believe there's another show, I think on Amazon, it also is something similar.
What's it called?
Hold on. I saw I don't know if it's a dating, but I know it is dealing with something with As We See It. That's what it's called.
Oh, okay.
So that's also involving, I think, individuals that are on the spectrum. And I don't know if it's dating, but it might be just looking at like kind of like their daily activities and different difficulties and things that they, experience. So yeah, I hope it maintains its integrity, that it doesn't become something where it's just entertainment values, because I think this would absolutely be a great educational piece. I think it'll be interesting to see as the show probably grows in its popularity, how some of the like individuals on the show, like the cast, how they probably start to blow up, because that never fails. Where you're gonna have a couple people that are gonna like their popularity, they're gonna blow up, and you're gonna see it, but a lot of different other kind of platforms. So it'll be
you're right about that.
To see,
That'll be interesting. I'm tuning in for that.
Yeah. So Jay, in financial news, last week we talked about crypto, right? Now we got our eyes set on Wells Fargo, and then it appears that Wells Fargo were holding fake interviews for women and people of color for jobs that were already filled to inflate its diversity efforts. All right. So an ex-Wells Fargo exec reported that Wells Fargo employees held fake interviews with diverse job candidates in order to boost its diversity numbers. So 7 current and former employees, including one former executive, informed the New York Times that they were instructed to interview women and people of color for roles that had already been filled. These efforts, they said, appeared to be a way to show the record of diversity efforts rather than actually hire the diverse candidates. 3 current Wells Fargo employees told the Times that fake interviews had always been conducted as recently as he said that there were interviews that had been recently conducted as of this year. Joe Bruno, who's an executive in Wells Fargo up until last August, said that when he complained to his bosses about the fake interviews, his claims were dismissed and he was ultimately fired. And he was dismissed in retaliation, or they said that he was dismissed in retaliation for raising his concerns. But they said that he was let go for that he retaliated against a colleague. Okay. So a Wells Fargo spokesperson told the Insider Statement that the claims could not be corroborated and the claims as factual. Okay. They also let out a statement that At the same time, we take the nature of these allegations in the story seriously, and as a company, we do not tolerate that type of conduct. We will continue our internal review. If we find any evidence of inappropriate behavior and shortcomings in our guidelines and or their implementation, we will take decisive action. Well, that is good to know, isn't it?
Man,
Jay, at first glance, you know what I thought about? I said,
what?
"Oh wow, this seems like this is very similar to the Rooney Rule."
Right?
So this is what Wells Fargo just kind of took a page out of their book and said, "We'll fix that," because in June of 2020, all right, the CEO, well, in retaliation or response to the George Floyd protests, the Wells Fargo CEO made it like a very insensitive remark regarding he had a memo that he had released, and he said that he would like to hire more people of color. Unfortunately, there's a very limited pool of black talent to recruit from. Obviously, you know that this didn't go over well. So they adopted a formal policy requiring a diverse roster of applicants to be interviewed for roles that would pay over $100,000 a year. So to me, this looks like, yeah, they just adopted the Rooney Rule. This is very to say this is inappropriate or morally wrong or ethically wrong is that would be an understatement. Um, yeah, this is a way of them kind of skirting around. They came up with a policy that they said, "Oh, this is what we're going to do to become more
Hmm.
inclusive," and they said, "Yeah, we're just going to check the boxes," which is unfortunate. I feel for the individuals coming in and wasting their time. Um, I mean, I guess at least you had one executive speaking up about it, but we saw what took place with him. Um, this I wish I could say I was surprised, Jay, but I'm not. Um, it's good that it's coming to
Well,
the forefront, but I'm not surprised. I mean, I think Wells Fargo, along with other different prominent companies, are also engaging in this type of activity, which is unfortunate.
well, they got caught red-handed, it appears, but it's good that this kind of gets exposed by the New York Times, right? Because otherwise, you hear the rumors every year, right? We see the evidence. We see the same names every year in the NFL going for, interview after interview. They never get any jobs, and people just explain it away, right? But we know what we're seeing. We know we're not stupid, and what we're seeing is a revolving door, and basically, parading characters for show, right? So they did the same thing. They got caught. Obviously, they didn't pay attention to the other part of when the NFL got caught. So Wells Fargo should just cut the check right now, right? I'm waiting to see what the Juneteenth celebration is going to be like because it's going to cost them millions. It's going to cost them millions in investments to Howard University and all these other places. It's going to cost them millions in community programs. It's going to cost them millions in folks that they're going to have to actively go out and hire through other firms now, right? Just because you wanted to keep a traditionally white power structure in place, right? These things need to come out, right? Because when you talk about structural racism, this is it. Mm-hmm. You can have a person that's qualified, right? They can look the part, have the credentials, dress the part, talk the lingo, walk in for the interview, and there was no chance they was getting a job, right? So when people tell you structural racism doesn't exist, these are the gatekeepers, right? These are rooms and they said they did it to women and people of color. So what does that mean? That means that we want to keep this place filled with white men.
Good old boys club.
Right. So when we talk about, that kind of about racism, and especially in 2020, I'm not worried about somebody calling me the N-word. I'll deal with it if it happens. I'll deal with it, swiftly. But I'm more worried about the structural racism and people putting obstacles in my way without me knowing, or the obstacles that they're going to put in my nephew's way, right? So this is the issue. That's the issue.
The thing that I always question is that when you have these committees like the EOC and all these other different agencies or committees or what have you, that's supposed to be looking into the quality control and investigating these type of things to prevent them. It's always a situation, and this is where I feel like a lot of these companies are able to finagle and utilize this loophole that we're going to interview, right? It always seems like they're putting emphasis and concentration on, well, how many candidates are these companies interviewing? How many are they giving opportunities for? No, let's look at how many are being hired. The same thing with the NFL. Like, it's a glaring number compared to other different agencies that are actually going forth with these policies, right? Or with these initiatives. Let's stop focusing on, we interviewed 10, 15 people, right? There were women, minorities, all these different things. Now, how many people have you hired? That's what you need to be looking. And I feel like this is where a lot of companies are able to use it as a shield to say, oh, well, we're interviewing folks, but they didn't qualify or something.
Yeah, well,
no, look at the number. How many people are being hired?
I mean,
you'll see the difference.
I mean, I think we also got to recognize too. I don't have any data to point to back this up, but in certain industries, especially the higher up you go, you can interview all the people you want. You look at everybody there, a large percentage of them, probably half of them, are going to have gotten the job because of a relationship, somebody that they knew.
Oh, nepotism, right? Nepotism in full effect.
But I mean, for all of us, you have professional relationships, same way I do. God forbid, if I lose my job, I'll probably find another one because of one of y'all, right? We're always tossing things back and forth. Yo, it's a job opening, my supervisor, this and that. That's the same thing. But if everybody there is homogenous, if we're all white men that have the same experience, we're not going to be able to pull Dr. Kyle in because we only know white men that have the same experience. That's the problem. You know what I mean? And when you talk about the financial industry, it's similar to a lot of other industries where there are plenty of people of color who have the grades, they have they know the lingo, they know the field, right? But they're not going to have access to certain funds and certain, places of business because traditionally that's not going to be where they go because that's not where they work because the relationships aren't there. You know what I mean? So again, I just think that's something that needs to be kind of talked about. And just to kind of tie it back to mental health, it's even more despicable because we're in the middle of a pandemic and people are depending on financial support. So you may have people who have walked in there and literally been up all night praying that they get this one chance for this one job. And you could have came in there, with a $3,000 suit and all your shit together, or you could have came in there in a t-shirt and flip-flops with your resume with coffee on it, but you wasn't gonna get the job anyway.
You were gonna get it anyway.
So,
yeah, it's disheartening. Like you mentioned, when you actually look at, specifically, or you look at that, that ecosystem in sense of, like you said, you have someone that really is counting on this. This person
right.
is getting their game together, getting themselves together, putting their best foot forward, and it's already rigged before he even gets there.
Right.
So, but yeah, you know what? I imagine this is going to be more financial institutions that are going to be more to come because Wells Fargo, again, they're already facing a lot of discrimination suits. They're already facing it. They're paying out a lot of money. And,
well, it's going to be more.
Oh yeah, it's going to be more, especially, the way these institutions treat some of their employees. You really think that they're going to continue to safeguard some of those practices that they experience? No, they're not. So, but shame on them. Like you said, it's going to be a domino effect. More are going to come out, and shame on you if you continue to participate in these type of practices. Because again, you're going to have to shove out more money, and you're wasting a lot of qualified applicants' time. Where, you know, like you said, you just look around and you hire the right folks. But what are you gonna do? But there will be more to come, so we'll see.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. It's a
Yeah.
fact.
Jay, we covered a lot. Covered a lot today.
Yeah.
Anything before we get out of here?
As always, you know, just want to thank everybody who takes the time to listen. Appreciate it. Humbled by the support. Continue to be. So continue to like the videos. Please share the videos. Continue to send us, you know, the messages. We appreciate the support. And as always, prioritize your mental health.
Absolutely. I can't really add anything to that. Is that we again appreciate the support, even though we are coming to the end of the month. It's still continue to check every loved one. Continue to participate in mental health awareness. Continue to participate in lupus awareness because it affects our community especially. It affects every community. However, you know, there are some nuances in which we are affected, and continue, just like Jay and I talked about all through this episode, is checking up on your family members, whether at school, whether they're at work, whether they're your family members. You know, let's get past these stock answers of, oh, I'm good, I'm okay. And let's really get into having these discussions and checking up on each other. All right. Jay, I will see you next week, good brother.
Yeah, next week. Listen, I'm gonna send you that video for the last one later this week, but I just got caught up, man. So I'm
Hey,
gonna
man,
send it to
listen,
you. I'm
you
gonna
out
send
here
it to you
saving
tonight.
lives, bro. You know, you out here saving lives. Don't even worry about it.
No, I meant to say I'm gonna send it to you tonight because I got nothing for the rest of the night. So I'm gonna take care of it.
All right, cool. All right, man.
All right, bro.
Till next time.
All right, later, man.
All right.